What is an informational interview and why is it so effective in helping you find a job? We're going to talk about that today. An informational interview is essentially when you go out there and you interview people in your industry or you interview hiring managers or people who might be your potential boss. Let's take a general example. Suppose you are looking for a business development job, right? You are going to conduct an interview with a business development manager, a business development associate, anyone who's in that industry who has decision-making power. Now, how you would do this, what the specifics are, how you actually get to it, we're going to talk about this later in this video. But essentially, I want to tell you why this process of interviewing people in your industry is so effective. So if you want to learn more about this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video for more future videos coming up. Now, when you're doing informational interviews, the whole purpose is not to get the job doing these interviews. The purpose is to network with someone and acquire the information you're really going to need to land that job or to be successful in getting that job. Here's what I mean. Suppose you talk to this person in business development and you book an interview with them and you ask them questions about their experience. You don't talk about, I'm looking for a job, this is my experience, this is what, no. It's going to be all focused on what their experience is. Tell me about what you do in your role. What are some of the skills that you needed to be successful in this role? What was your career path? How did you end up in your position now? What do you love about your position? What do you not love about your position? If you were in my shoes right now and you were really interested in the role, in a business development role at your company, what would you be doing? So essentially what you're doing is you are talking about them, you're helping them share their experiences, and you're asking them for advice. You're asking them for a path to, I want to be like you. How do I do that? Can you tell me? Based on that advice, suppose that this person has been in the company for 4 years and they tell you, you know what, the only way to get into this company is if you know someone, or maybe if you know how to work a certain software. Now you don't have to waste time sending in applications when you're not qualified. You can go back, get those qualifications, you can go and make those connections in the company and then look for a job later on. So essentially, when you talk to enough people in many different companies, or maybe one company, a lot of different people there, you get a gist of what they're looking for in that company, what they're looking for in that role, what are some personality traits, what are the good things about this job, what are the not so good things about the job. This information really helps you assess whether the job is a good fit. It helps create a conversation between you and someone on the inside of the company. This is how you network. You reach out to them, you ask them for advice, they'll give you the advice, and in the process, they get to know you a little bit, right? Now, there's this thing when you give someone advice, you really want them to be successful. You don't want to give bad advice. You don't want to give advice that doesn't work. So when you're talking to these people and they're telling you, okay, you know what, continue talking to people, but also work on ABC software, or also try to get some experience in XYZ, you might want to look into volunteering here. And they might give you this advice based on the information, based on the conversation you're having with them. When you have that advice from them, you will go out and act on the advice. So after you interview, you could say, thank you so much for letting me know about ABC. I'm going to go ahead and do that. In the meantime, I just wanted to know, is there anyone else you think I should speak to? Is there anyone else in the company that you admire that I could speak with? And what's going to happen is, if you did this correctly, if you went into it with the sole agenda of learning something, they'd be more than happy to refer you to someone else. They'd say, hey, John Smith in my company would be a great person to talk to. He's been doing this job for a long time. So what happens is you reach out to one person, you have one interview with them, and then they refer you to other people, you have interviews with them. And if you do this process effectively enough, you know 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 people in the company where you want to work at. Now, at this point, there doesn't have to be a job posting opened up. If there isn't, that's totally fine. You know pretty much every single one in the team that you want to work for. So by the time a job opens up, by the time something opens up that you're interested in, you could always reach out to them and say, hey, I'm just following up on our conversation we had about a month ago. I talked to you about a business development role that I was really interested in. I've gone ahead and I followed all the advice. I noticed that a job posting did come up. Would you recommend I go ahead and apply? If they know you, if they trust you, if they've had good conversation with you, they'd be more than happy to not only recommend it, but they'd also be more than happy to refer you into the role. That's my other point. Now, a very, very good chance of getting an interview, a pretty high chance, is through an employee referral. Why is this? Because companies trust their own employees. Their own employees know what it's like for someone to be successful in that role. They're not going to recommend someone who's not a good fit, because if they're recommending people who are not a good fit to HR, to their managers, they're going to look bad, right? So they're going to recommend you if they know you, if they can speak to your experience, they know how enthusiastic you are. And when you've done these informational interviews with so many different people and you've touched base with them afterwards as well, you've kept in contact, when a job posting opens up, it's very common for these people to think of you and reach out to you and say, hey, just so you know, there's a job posting that came up. I know you reached out to me a month ago. I'm just wondering if you're still interested. That happens more time than you think, especially when hiring managers are making up a job posting, right? They're getting ready to hire someone new on the team. One of the more important questions that HR will ask the hiring managers, the people you're actually going to be reporting to, is there anyone you know in your network, or anyone internally, anyone externally you think might be a good fit? Now the manager is going to think back, who would be a good fit? Is there anyone who reached out to me? Is there anyone who had a conversation with me? Is there anyone who would be really interested in this role? And if you had done your informational interview prior with this manager, with your potential future boss, they're going to think of you. Even if they don't do this and you see a job posting open up, you can always reach out to them and say, hey, I saw this job posting. I'm wondering if you think I'd be a good fit for it. And they'll let you know, because at that point, you have a good relationship with them. Now, why does this work so effectively? With informational interviews, it helps you network directly with decision makers. So you're not just applying online, waiting to get a response from a recruiter. The recruiter will talk to you, and then they'll decide whether to move you forward to the hiring manager, and then the hiring manager decides if they want to interview you. There's a lot that goes into that process. If you can skip that whole process, find hiring managers directly online, on LinkedIn, on the database, and send them a message saying, hey, I just want to learn more about your company. I just want to learn more about your industry. Do you have a couple of minutes to talk? If you do that enough times and you talk to enough decision makers, suppose you talk to 15 decision makers in your specific niche in 15 different departments, 15 different companies, there's a pretty good chance at least one of them will turn into a referral, or at least one of them will refer you to some other role or someone else. Even if they don't, now you have 15 people in a decision-making capacity who are in your network now. So if something comes up later on, you could always reach out to them. On top of that, during this process, when you're talking to industry veterans who've been in the role for so long, they'll be able to tell you what skills you're missing, what skills you don't have, or what skills they're looking for on the team. So for example, if you're an accountant, you're looking for an accounting job, and they say, you know what, we only hire people who have experience with QuickBooks, or we have only hire people who have experience with Sage, you can just go back and start doing some certifications, maybe start doing some courses, so you know that by the time you come back and you apply and you look for roles in that company, you have a much higher chance of getting hired, because now you know someone in there, you've acted on their advice. Think about it. When someone gives you advice, or maybe you've given someone advice and they go implement that advice, they come back and it's worked for them, don't you just feel amazing that you actually helped someone, that the advice you gave them, it really helped them? That's what you want to do. When you do these informational interviews, you get their advice, you'll go out there, you'll implement it, and you come back to them and you keep them updated. I have people doing this all the time with my course. I do this all the time. I'm not even looking for a job and I'm doing informational interviews. Now, the key here is this. A lot of people, they do informational interviews only when a job posting comes up. So if they see a job posting, they will reach out to the hiring managers and try to get an interview. This is a good strategy. You should definitely do it, but I still want you to do it for companies that aren't even hiring right now. So if you're looking for a job with some of the bigger companies and there's no job posting, great. There's no harm in getting to know them then, because by the time a job opens up, you're going to be one of the first people to hear about it. You're going to be one of the first applicants in there. And by then, you already know the hiring team. You already know the managers. And there's a pretty good shot you're going to be called in for an interview. If not out of anything else, just out of the courtesy that they know you, okay? So, informational interviews. They allow you to skip the HR process, right? They allow you to go directly to HR managers, talk to them. There's no guarantee of a job with a referral, but people do like knowing that someone on the inside of the company recommended them. So if you skip HR, you just talk to a whole bunch of hiring managers, a whole bunch of decision makers. You'll get a lot of knowledge about what you need. You will network with the people who might be your potential future boss. If you impress even one of them, they might tell you about an internal role that's been open, that's not open to external people. And or if they have an existing role that's open, they'll say, you know what, there's actually a job that you'd be a really good fit for. Let me refer you to it, or let me introduce you to Jane Smith, who's handling the role. So there's all these possibilities that open up for you. Now, I want you to think about this. Suppose if you have an hour every single day, right? And every single day you reached out to hiring managers in your industry, your potential boss, people who are one step above doing what you want to do, and you network with them every single day, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. By the end of the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you will have so many people in your network you have connected with, who you told about your interests, who you told about why you're so passionate about their company. And now you're planting the seed in all these different places. All you have to do is either wait for an opportunity to come up, have them refer you to a job, and or ask them, is there anyone else I should speak to? And you're always connecting from one person to another person to another person to another person. The more people you talk to, the more decision makers you talk to, the higher your chance is of landing a job. Now compare that to applying online. Now, yes, applying online works, but the difference is when you're spending 1 hour every single day on online applications, unless you meet 80 to 90 or 100% of the requirements and you don't get selected, your resume just goes into the dark abyss and there's no return on that. With networking, when you reach out to people and you have a conversation with them, you have them in your network forever. That is a really solid return on the investment of reaching out to them for that 1 hour. With online job applications, it's kind of like a lottery. Unless you hit the right job posting that requires your experience, you're going to be sending your resume into a lot of empty voids and not getting a response, right? So if you're finding that you're trying out this online application thing and it's not really working out for you, something that's worked really well for me and really well for my clients, and I can't tell you how many of my clients have gotten interviews doing just this, skipping HR, talking to their potential future boss, and their future boss says, I like this person a lot. HR, can you please reach out to them and conduct an interview or have an interview lined up for us? If you do this, your chances of landing a job are going to increase significantly, and you're going to become more informed. You're going to know what they're looking for. And if something comes up later in the future, you're going to have an opportunity lined up for yourself, and you're going to be the first one to know about it. So I don't think with networking you can ever go wrong. You can never talk to enough people. You can never network to a point where you're like, okay, I've networked enough. Always be networking. Always be networking. And one of the best ways to do that, to find a job specifically, is to do informational interviews. So I hope this helped you out. I hope this gave you some perspective of what else you can try other than just online job postings. Again, if you'd like my personal help and want all the templates, step-by-step instructions on how to find a job, a complete job searching strategy, please find the link in the description if you want to apply to work with me directly. I hope this gave you some value. If it did, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.